forcing about 80,000 people to evacuate. The rain caused landslides, cut off power, and damaged dozens of roads. Parts of Beijing have received more than 20 inches of rainfall in just 4 days. The region typically gets 23 inches of rain over the course of an entire year.
Jury deliberations are now underway in the trial of a dentist charged with murdering his wife by poisoning her protein shakes. James Craig was first arrested in Colorado back in 2023. His trial began 2 weeks ago. Craig did not testify in his own defense. He's pleaded not guilty. If convicted, he could face life in prison. NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal joins us now. Camila, it's been a while since we talked about this case, but it is an ongoing trial. Can you remind our viewers about what happened?
Hey, Kate. Yeah, a very high-profile trial as everyone followed this story of the dentist who was well-known in Colorado and who was married for 23 years with his wife, Angela, that you see there in photos. And both the defense and the prosecution saying that during their 23 years of marriage, he had multiple affairs. The prosecution saying he was in the middle of one of these affairs in 2023 when his wife, Angela, began feeling dizzy, began feeling sick. She went to the hospital multiple times trying to figure out what was wrong with her, and they really did not figure out what was wrong with her until after her death, when prosecutors looked at the idea of poisoning, and they now say that he poisoned her milkshakes little by little using a number of poisons, including eye drops. They say he bought 12 bottles of these eye drops, putting them into her milkshake, her protein shake, and the prosecution here saying that he did this because he wanted out of the marriage. On the other hand, you had the defense saying that this was actually suicide. They say that because he was a cheater, he essentially broke Angela, and saying that that's what led her to commit this suicide, Kate.
Camila, what did we hear from both sides during their closing arguments? That happened today, right?
Yeah, they did happen today. It's now in the hands of the jury, and the prosecution focusing on the motive, saying that he did this because he wanted out of the marriage, because he wanted the money. He didn't want to split the money and wanted the life insurance money, but also because he wanted to protect his image. On the other hand, you had the defense team saying, no, this was actually broken people, a broken marriage. They said that the prosecution and the perception of all of this was broken, and saying even the investigation was broken because he was somebody that went up to doctors and floated the idea of suicide. We'll see if this jury believes that. They are obviously deliberating, and we'll have to wait and see what they decide, Kate.
All right, Camila Bernal, thank you.
We are tracking the manhunt this hour for the person who killed a couple at an Arkansas state park. Authorities releasing this new picture of a possible person of interest in the case, along with a sketch. The attack happened over the weekend at Devil's Run State Park, where the couple was hiking with their 2 young daughters. Both girls managed to escape unharmed. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park is tracking this one. Kathy, we are now several days into this manhunt. Of course, the community on edge. Authorities are focused on this search. What are they looking for?
Yeah, Zinkley. So Arkansas State Police released 2 big clues in just the last 24 hours. First, as you mentioned, a sketch showing the face of the man they are looking to question in connection with the double homicide. And then a new photo appearing to show the back of the man police say is, quote, the person of interest. The suspect initially was described by authorities as a white man, medium build, last seen wearing dark clothing, carrying a black backpack. And police say he may have been injured during the attack. And since the suspect is still at large, police are urging anyone who may have visited the park Saturday afternoon to review their devices, their phones, GoPros, look for photos and videos for perhaps more clues, and also asking local residents near the park to check their security cameras as well to help with the ongoing investigations and claim.
Kathy Park with the latest for us on that. Thanks so much.
A new report is looking at the staggering economic toll that weather disasters are taking on the U.S. NBC News meteorologist Chase Kane digs into the data and the damage that storms and wildfires across the country have already caused.
It wasn't just the LA wildfires, and it's not just this year. This new analysis from one of the world's biggest reinsurance companies shows that the United States continues to face more costly disasters than any other country on the planet. And that's despite the Trump administration deciding earlier this year to stop releasing data like this. But scientists and insurance companies say that doesn't change the truth. that climate change is making disasters like this more extreme and more common.
We have been observing that trend now for many decades. The losses are on the rise because often properties are in harm's way, but also climate change increases likelihood of these types of extreme weather events going forward.
The LA wildfires topped the list, leaving $53 billion in damage, $13 billion of that uninsured, meaning local governments and homeowners who struggled to get fire insurance continue to face difficult financial choices.
I called every company that I've heard of, and everyone said, no, you're in the fire zone, you don't qualify for insurance through us. I don't know how long I'm going to be out of my home for.
And that's true even far from the threat of wildfires or hurricanes. In the Midwest, March, April, and May brought 4 waves of tornadoes, hail, and flooding, causing a combined $19 billion in damage. And this report doesn't even count July's deadly flooding in Texas. Even before that, 2025 was already shaping up to be one of the most destructive years in U.S. history as more Americans face soaring home insurance costs. Munich Re's chief climate scientist says that's in part because we're only beginning to see the full impact and cost of climate change.
I very often have the feeling that people are not really familiar with the personal risk situation. So there's a misperception of risks. And this is something we just need to capture and understand that these kinds of climate risks are on the rise, even if you don't see the risk.
Insurance experts say one of the best ways to bring down the cost of insurance for Americans may not be popular, because it would mean that we would have to stop building in risky areas and stop rebuilding in risky areas after a disaster. And so many of us are attached to our homes and our communities, so there's not an easy path forward. In Pacific Palisades, California, I'm meteorologist Chase Kane.
Chase Kane, appreciate it. A rental car giant is now